Today we're going to be matchmaking after UFC 326 took place over the weekend, headlined by Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira. It was a decent fight for the first couple of rounds, started to teeter off in the last three, but I've match-made all of the interesting fighters on the card. I've taken into account the career progression that these athletes should have, and also all of the availability of the people that they'll be facing. Starting off with the winner of the main event though, Charles Oliveira. I've matched him up with Arman Tsarukyan. I almost feel like this is what you have to do for Charles Oliveira, just because you're not really going to do anything else. What is he going to fight Conor McGregor in a BMF fight sometime next year? That's not going to happen. Conor McGregor's not signing up to fight a grappler who just smudged Max Holloway for 5 straight rounds. That is not how it's going to go down. And then if you're thinking about what the actual fights look like for Charles Oliveira, in the lightweight division, there's not really anyone that he hasn't already faced. Maybe you do a Justin Gaethje rematch if Justin Gaethje loses, or when he loses to Ilia Topuria, but that's going to be a long time out. And there's no one else that really should be fighting for a BMF belt at this point. After watching that performance, just retire the BMF. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's been saying this, but when a performance happens like that from the BMF, that's when you know that it has to be retired. Every single BMF fight that we've had up until this one was blood and guts. It was war. It was absolutely impressive to watch. It was not to say that Charles Oliveira's win wasn't impressive, but there were a lot more electric performances. And as soon as you have one bad one, the BMF becomes a little bit invalid because it's only really there for good fights. It's not like it's an actual champion. There is a divisional champion named Ilia Topuria who's also the lineal BMF belt in the lighter weight classes. So there's no point in keeping that around. And the thing is that Arman Tsarukyan needs a fight, and you're not going to put Arman Tsarukyan against a Gamrot if Gamrot beats Esteban Ribovic, or you're not going to put him against Paddy Pimblett off a loss, or Mauricio Rufy if he beats Michael Chandler. That's not Arman Tsarukyan's next fight. And with the new announcement of Justin Gaethje versus Ilia Topuria, Arman Tsarukyan, it looks like he's not going to get a title fight for a decent while. So the only really thing he should be looking for would either just be sitting on the sidelines, which I wouldn't recommend, or just look for a matchup with a guy who you've had a close fight, who would mean a lot on your resume, who if you get a win over him, you're not going to get denied a title shot. If Arman Tsarukyan's able to pull one over again on Charles Oliveira, finishing it maybe, he is not getting denied of a title shot. So I think this is the only fight you have to make. The first fight between them on UFC 300, it was a very close performance, and it was a split decision. It really could have gone either way. Live watching it, I actually thought Charles won, but on the rewatch, I thought Arman won. So I think that this is a good rematch to actually happen, and it's sort of the only fight for both of these guys here. But I'm excited to watch it if it does happen, with the new improvements of Charles Oliveira's grappling game and the improvements in Arman's striking. I'm excited to watch that as a fight. Moving on, though, we've got Max Holloway. I want to put him up against Benoit Saint-Denis. Now, I know, going from a Max Holloway fighting Dustin Poirier, fighting Ilia Topuria, fighting Charles Oliveira, seeing his name on a fight against Benoit Saint-Denis would be so weird. But I would actually like this to be if they go to France mid to late part of the year, maybe a September or an August France visit, do this as the main event. Because Max Holloway, he's main evented so many different fight nights. He's main evented in Singapore, main evented in America multiple times. I think he's even main evented in Canada. For him, he should just be trying to have some fun fights, get himself back into some of those massive matchups. And to be honest, BSD, it's a fight that he can win. Even though BSD is a grappler, we saw that Max Holloway's counter grappling isn't as good as we thought. If he can get a win over BSD, it's going to bring him closer to getting back to those big matchups, because it's going to show, he can deal with the grappler, he couldn't deal with the third degree black belt or fourth degree black belt of Charles Oliveira, which, to be honest, most people can't deal with that. So if he can get a win over Benoit Saint-Denis, the stock of Max Holloway rises right back up, especially after Benoit's last win over Dan Hooker, still taking down Dan Hooker and TKOing him to ground and pound. And the other reason why I would like to see this one is just because Charles, he can be like a more positional grappler. He'll go for some ground and pound, but he's not going to lose position from ground and pound. Benoit is just going to try and smash your face into the canvas. And against Max Holloway, a guy who we like to see dish out some damage, it's going to be an interesting fight because on the feet, Max is going to tune up Benoit and his lack of head movement. But then on the ground, Benoit's going to unleash absolute fury. So it would be a really fun matchup just to watch. And as a fan of the sport, I do like to see like the striker versus grappler matchups, but I like to see the good versions of them, not the smudge version. So I want to see this fight next. Book it in like a couple of months. Max took a little bit of damage in this fight, but not actually too much damage. So I'm not too worried about that. Moving on, though, for Caio Borralho, I've matched him up with Dricus du Plessis or Brendan Allen. That's the fight that is going to definitely happen next. It's going to be Dricus versus Brendan. And the winner of that should take on Caio Borralho for like a shot to a title shot or something like that. Maybe just if Dricus can beat both Brendan Allen and Caio, he would deserve a title shot. Or if Brendan Allen even were to beat Dricus and Caio, he would also deserve a title shot. But for Caio, I don't think if he beats either of these guys, he deserves it. He's only coming off one win, and it was against Reiner De Ridder, who Brendan Allen also has a win over, and he finished him as well. So I think Caio's still a couple of fights away, but I don't really know, like, you couldn't really put Caio with anyone else, unless you're thinking of making him, like, sit him on ice until the winner of Pfeiffer versus Adesanya comes up. But I think that this is a much more... This fight between Dricus and Brendan Allen is going to happen sooner, and I could see the fight, whoever wins that one, I could see them turning around quicker. And I think both of these guys beat Caio Borralho. Maybe not Brendan Allen, because we've seen that Caio was able to out-grapple and submit him in a grappling match, but I think that Dricus would be able to beat Caio Borralho. Maybe he gets out-grappled as well, but on the feet, I think he's much better, much more dangerous than Caio. Thought that Caio leaving his hands below his waist over the weekend against Reiner De Ridder wasn't a great look. He was getting caught with a lot of different shots I didn't think he should. So I think that he would struggle with both Dricus and Brendan Allen. But I think that that's the only fights that you can make for him next. You could have done, though, if you gave MVP that wasn't a fight that wasn't Sam Patterson, you actually gave him a fight that he deserved. Maybe like if you gave him Roman Dolidze, or if you gave him like... I'm trying to think who's like ranked 6 in the division. If you gave him Reiner De Ridder and he was coming off a win, or if you gave him Robert Whittaker and he was coming off a win there, you do Caio Borralho versus MVP. That would be a very fun fight. Moving on, though, we'll talk about Reiner De Ridder. Didn't have a great performance against Caio Borralho. Looked a little bit like a victim out there. I'm sorry, Reiner, you're getting slimed out by Gregory Rodrigues. They're both on the same card. Gregory got a great win, getting his rematch win over Bruno Ferreira, knocking him out almost in the exact same way Bruno Ferreira knocked him out. Straight right hand, down the pipe. Gregory's a very difficult fighter, and I think stylistically for Reiner De Ridder, Gregory's probably the worst matchup for him in the division, but the thing is that everyone else who could be free to fight sometime soon, Reiner's already fought them, or he has, doesn't deserve the matchup. So... And most guys in middleweight are actually already matched up. So it's kind of only this matchup for Reiner De Ridder. And it is dangerous. Because Reiner, he sort of works off being bigger than his opponents. He's stronger than his opponents usually. This is probably the only guy in the middleweight division who's going to be bigger. He's going to be stronger. He's going to have the takedown defense. It's going to be tricky for Reiner. Reiner's not going to be... I would never bet my money on Reiner winning this one. I think he gets knocked out cold in the first 2 rounds. Watching him rear back against Caio Borralho and get caught by big shots makes me know that Gregory Rodrigues, just on a full extension of a right hand, is just going to knock him out cold. But it's the only matchup you can make between these two. Obama sort of just needs a fight to really put him up there in that top 10 of the division. And I think Reiner's the only one that will take that fight, let alone is actually free to take that fight. So I think this is the only fight that you can make next for both of these guys. Moving on to Raul Rosas, who had a stinky performance over the weekend. He is also getting slimed out, but in a different way, and it's against Raul Barcelos. Look, Raul Barcelos, he deserves a ranked opponent. He's already beat Cody Garbrandt, he's already beat Peyton Talbot, who's in the rankings. This is the only fight that you can make right now. And, beating Rob Font is quite impressive for Raul Rosas, but Rob Font also has no grappling defense. That's been a problem for Rob Font. He's been clinically weak in every fight he's ever had. So Raul Rosas was literally always going to beat Rob Font. There was no chance of Rob Font winning that. Now, Raoni Barcelos, though, he's got much more better takedown defense. He's just a better grappler in general as well. And he's a lot more slick on the feet. So I think that, well, he is just more slick on the feet. He's not going to throw wrist punches like Rob Font will. That was pathetic and embarrassing. So Raoni Barcelos, he is a good fight for Raul Rosas. Like, Raul's going to really struggle with him. I would pick Raoni Barcelos to win that fight 10 out of 10 times because Raul Rosas has shown in his last fight, he doesn't do any ground and pound. He only goes for submissions and control. And Raoni Barcelos, he's too crafty to be able to do that too. And I think that Raul Rosas needs to have the tough, rough taught lesson by the crafty vet at this point in his career. Like, I can imagine, like, an old Raoni Barcelos pretending to be on, like, the basketball court, schooling this young jit in Raul Rosas Jr. So I would like to see that matchup, and I want to see Raul get fraud checked again. So let's make that one. Moving on, though, for Drew Dober, we all know the matchup. It's the only one that can be made. No, not actually Drew Dober's one. It's Rob Font versus Daniel Marcos. I thought that I read this wrong. I thought it was Drew Dober coming up next, but I just got too excited. Rob Font, Daniel Marcos, it's the only fight to make. Rob Font is like just outside the rankings now, and Daniel Marcos, he is also floating around like that, like 16 to 21 spot of the unranked division. He's probably only a win or two away from getting into the rankings, and the thing is with Daniel Marcos is that he's sometimes quite inactive, so I thought it's probably a good time to slot him in with Rob Font. Rob Font's been decently active over the last year. And in about like 3-4 months, Rob Font will be ready to get fraud checked yet again at the ripe old age of 36. And Daniel Marcos is the next guy that's going to be able to outmuscle Rob Font. He's going to outdo him on the feet, win a close split decision like Daniel Marcos always does. Now, let's get to Drew Dober. We know what's happening. Jalen Turner, you're getting slimed out. Drew Dober's coming for you. He's hunting you down. He has been thinking about you for every weekend in the past 4 years since he last called you out when you were in the rankings. This has been the only fight to make for the last multiple years. But Jalen Turner's been ducking him. I can tell. I know that Jalen Turner's so terrified of Drew Dober and that shad chin of his. So I think that this is actually, all jokes aside, it's actually a really fun fight. Drew Dober, he's coming off a couple of wins. He's got the Kyle Prepolek win. He's coming off the win against Michael Johnson as well. He's coming back to his old Drew Dober ways. He's getting some nasty KO finishes. Jalen Turner, he's just come back from his little skateboarding break where he was doing a little bit of emo stuff outside of the UFC. And Jalen Turner, he looked really good against Edson Barboza, but the thing is that Jalen Turner, he does not deserve a ranked opponent or even a guy to get him ranked. You don't take 8 months out of the UFC and have a don't fire me, I quit sort of retirement and then come back, beat the 39-year-old Edson Barboza and expect a ranked opponent. So this is the guy that's going to get him an opponent who's going to get him ranked. So I think that this is a really fun fight. Put it on a stacked fight night card on the main card, maybe the fourth fight of the main card on a fight night, and everyone will be happy. Now, let's talk about some Drew Dober victims here. Michael Johnson, I've matched him up with Terrence McKinney. Now, look, Terrence McKinney is not a current Drew Dober win from my understanding. He actually might be, though, now that I'm thinking about it. But Terrence McKinney versus Michael Johnson is just the best fight. Yeah, Drew Dober knocked him out in the first round. I did forget that. That was on the Ankalaev versus Santos fight night. But, of course, he did. Knocked him out in round one. These are two just former victims. They can sort of have a therapy session talking about their experiences with Drew Dober before their fight. Maybe they can sort of work through some sort of mental challenges there. But Terrence McKinney versus Michael Johnson would actually be such a fun fight. You know that if you see this pop up on the prelims of a pay-per-view or on a fight night main card or something like that, if you see this fight come up, you're oh, Michael Johnson's probably getting a sweet, slick KO here, or he's getting finished in a couple of seconds by Terrence McKinney. So this would actually be a really fun, enjoyable performance to put on. Moving on, though, we've got Bruno Ferreira, suffered a tough loss in his rematch with Gregory Rodrigues. I've matched him up with Roman Kopylov. Both of these guys floating around the 15 to 21 again of the unranked area. And Honestly, I think that Bruno Ferreira probably tunes up Roman Kopylov, but it's a good fight. Two recognizable names. A lot of UFC fans will know both of these guys. You can throw it on like a... If you're going to keep doing Apex events, you can throw it on the feature fight of an Apex card, and everyone's going to be pretty happy and excited about that fight. But it's actually a decent performance. Like, you'd get a decent performance out of both guys. Like, Kopylov, he wouldn't be allowed to just, like, stand at range doing nothing apart from spamming rear body kicks. Because Bruno Ferreira, he pushes forward way too much. He's going to be way too aggressive. And I think that Kopylov needs to take, even though he's had a decent amount of time off since his Gregory Rodrigues fight, he needs to take some time off to find some, like, extra grittiness. So I think wait for a couple of months, wait like 6 to 8 months, make this matchup, and I would love to see it. Now, moving on to Cody Garbrandt. He's going to need some time off after those really swollen nuts of his, but I put him up against Elijah Smith. Now, Cody Garbrandt called out David Martinez. No chance. You ain't getting that, big bro. Like, he's literally now Unk, which is really weird to think that when I first started watching MMA, Cody Garbrandt was still like the young guy, but like, Unk is out here. He's just running around at range. He's doing nothing on the feet. He's not looking entertaining. He's not looking fast. He's not looking explosive. Everything that he used to have is sort of gone. And I think that he needs to just be fed to some of these prospects. He's getting given like cans. Like Long Zhao, he should have always beaten Long Zhao. And then the guys that he was beating, like Brian Kelleher, he was terrible and he wasn't a prospect. Give Cody Garbrandt a prospect. You're paying him a lot of money. Make a name of him. And Elijah Smith, he's a good prospect. He knocked out Toshiyomi Kazama with the brutal slam, like really bad, and then just like chinned him with like 3 really bad follow-up shots. So Elijah Smith, he's going to be needing his like breakout performance. And Cody Garbrandt, he does not deserve to be like headlining the prelims on a pay-per-view. Like, that is not what Cody Garbrandt's here in the UFC for. He's here to be slimed out by prospects. Give him the GM3 route. Because the thing is that Cody Garbrandt's not going to become a star. He's already worked his time in the UFC. Feed him to some up-and-comers now. We need to see someone make a name of him. Moving on, though, to the last matchup. It's Dante Johnson. Had a very unimpressive performance, but I matched him up with Jacob the Mamba Malkoun. This is going to be a hard fight for Dante Johnson, and I wanted to give him someone who was a step up but not like a brutal step up. Like, I even think a guy like Cam Ralston absolutely smokes Dante Johnson. So Jacob Mamba Malkoun, he's got some good takedown defense. He's got some good wrestling himself. He's decent with the hands. He struggles with a bit of like power on the feet, so that's maybe where he gets outworked by Dante Johnson. But it's a winnable fight for both guys, and I think that Jacob Malkoun needs to get back into the octagon after so long off, and he's just got to win over... God, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. The really short, stocky guy that beat Robert Valentin. God, I hate that I can't remember his name right now. But Jacob Malkoun, he's been needing to get back into the octagon just because he's been having some... He's had some, like, decent performances, but they're all so far apart that he's never really, like, gaining momentum. And, like, he's going to get a big name after beating Torres Finney, or a big-ish name. And he's also got the notorious hip KO over Andre Petroski. So I think that you have to pull the trigger on some matchups with Jacob Malkoun really quickly just to get him in some sort of run. And for Dante Johnson, you've got to slow the roll. Don't give him a ranked opponent or someone to get him ranked next. You need to incrementally jump him up. That Cody Brundage fight should not have been that hard. Let me know what you think of the matchups in the comment section below. What fights would you like to see after UFC 326? And I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.